Hello and welcome to Just for Farmers. I'm on my own again today. Paul, I don't know what he's doing, sunning himself in Solihull, Birmingham. Some chance he's got of that, eh? Today I've got a superb guest for you. It's Stephanie Berkeley from the Farm Safety Foundation. Farming has a different reputation when it comes to farm safety. You all know this yourselves. Some farms are the epitome of health and safety, and other farms can be a pit of health and safety. So I'm really keen to talk to Stephanie to find out, first of all, what she does in her role. Secondly, to find out what the foundation does. And then, she doesn't know this yet, I'm going to ask her a few questions about women in farming. So Stephanie, welcome to Just for Farmers.
Hi, David. Thanks for having me on.
Tell us a little bit about yourself first. What's your background and how have you come to be doing what you're doing today?
Okay, so this is a bit of a strange one. So,
Oh, good.
I'm from Donegal in Ireland.
Yeah.
So I grew up in a very rural community. You don't think you could get more rural than Donegal. Most of my friends were either farmers or fishermen.
Right.
So it's something I lived with every single day. I unfortunately have friends who lost members of their family. One of my friends lost two brothers in one day, just going to work and not coming back. So
Wow.
things like the safety act was something that really impacted me as a person, me as a friend, and me as part of a rural community. So fast forward all those years, and I did a degree in business studies. I did a postgraduate in journalism. Then I got involved in writing for construction magazines, for business magazines, and eventually became the editor of a fashion magazine.
Wow.
So
Sounds
honestly, you couldn't make it up. I then went to work after 9/11, at that time when a lot of people had sort of epiphanies. I happened to be in Mallorca with models and hairdressers and makeup artists when the planes hit the Twin Towers. And I
hmm
thought, nah, I need to actually do something that means something. So I then went and spent 8 years working for a education charity, a science and discovery centre in Northern Ireland,
Wow.
and helped to make science sexy for the next generation of scientists and people that were doing their career choices. So then, about 10 years ago, I was moving to England and happened to notice that NFU Mutual were going to set up an independent charity that was going to drive better behaviours in farm safety in the next generation. And I thought to myself, well, do you know what? If I can make science sexy, I can make safety sexy. And I thought that's the job for me. So I went hell bent to get it. And I've
And I,
been there ever since.
and I thought I had a weird CV. That is fantastic. From construction to fashion.
Off the stilettos for wellies.
Wow. And having gone from corporate world to running a charitable organisation, what are the key differences there?
Oh my gosh. They say you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And I truly believe that. I love the idea that we can get in front of these young people that are making their journey into the industry, and we can really inspire them to work safely every day. We will probably never know whether or not we are going to be saving lives, but actually we know we are making a difference to the attitudes and behaviors of that next generation of farmers. Because you rightly said, farming actually has the poorest safety record of any occupation in the UK. And we have a hand in changing that and making
Wow.
it a safer place for people to live and to work.
In previous sessions, we've talked about the importance of knowing why you do what you do, having some sense of purpose in your work, and as you say, never work a day in your life if you love what you do. Farming, vocational, charity work, found very much, and so how. What is it the foundation actually does? Because it sounds like what it says on the tin, Farm Safety Foundation, but what kind of projects are you getting involved with?
Okay, so we create our own projects. So we started off 10 years ago with a great vision to reduce the number of people having life changing injuries and deaths on our farms. but how were we going to do it? So I was able to borrow from what I'd learned back with the Science Centre, and we started to make health and safety training, and specifically farm safety training, a little bit more interesting. So, we
How?
didn't
Go on.
want to.
I've got to say, how have you done that?
Oh, well, initially, what we did was we took them right out of the classroom and we put students at an accident scene. We recreated accident scene. We did them in sort of
Wow.
like speed dating, CSI style. You walk onto the accident scene. You have to say what's happened, what you would do to help, and then we sort of roll it back and go, okay, how would you make it safer? And then we took them around the various scenes, then back into the classroom. We then took them and we introduced them to people who'd had accidents, making what they've seen absolutely real so that they remember those stories and those people, that when they're about to approach the task, that they're working with a PTO guard that's damaged or absent, that they remember that person that lost their arm, they remember that person that lost their sister as a result of it. So these things stay in their minds, that sort of have that little gentle reminder without being graphic. Now, over the years, we've changed that. And we have now decided this is a tech savvy audience. These, the students, the young farmers are using Farm Simulator. They are using a lot of technology to improve and innovation. So we thought, let's give them an experiential experience of it. So we've decided to introduce virtual reality into the training. So we're out
Wow.
there, we're using virtual reality, we're giving them 360-degree virtual farmyard hazard perception, things like that. So
Wow.
it just makes it a little bit more interesting and engaging for them so that those messages become more personal to them. They remember those stories. It sort of gently reminds them. And it's not death by PowerPoint for 2.5 hours, which is going to put them off safety and, risk assessing for life.
And is this open? Is this available to farmers as well as students? Is this
At the
generally
moment,
available?
well, actually, it's not, because I'll tell you why. We're set up to look after the next generation of farmers. So we're looking after the age range of, 18 to 40. And we're doing that at all the colleges. Every single land-based college and university in the UK has had our training. We've trained over 30,000 students and young farmers in the last 10 years
Wow.
in small, quite small groups. But when we talk about being a small charity, David, there's only four of us, so there's myself and I've got Alex, Megan, and Biza. There's four of us and we're all over the country. So when one of us is doing Rittle College in Essex, the other person is up at SRUC in Dumfries and Galloway delivering training. So we do that, but that's only one little bit of what we do. We're out there, we're engaging with the young farmers at the young farmers clubs, we're at the shows, we're working in collaboration with a lot of organizations out there. We are also the people that we own and manage and fund Farm Safety Week, where we bring the entire industry together for just 1 week in the year. We
Yeah.
started the Mind Your Head campaign back in 2018, when, if you remember, the issues and the challenges were around Brexit and the uncertainty around that. But God knows, we didn't know what was going to be coming in the next couple of years, So these are we're creating resources, we're creating digital tools, we're delivering them free of charge to farmers so that when somebody says, actually, farm safety costs too much, actually, it doesn't. Because we have a digital build your own health and safety policy tool free of charge on our website, that you can use to create that, print it off. That will prove to the HSC, that will prove to Red Tractor that you have the right attitude to farm safety.
And I suppose there's a bit of a cliche that we can apply to this, very much like business farm insurance, which is, yeah, it is expensive until you need it, and then it's the best investment you've ever made.
Well, absolutely.
When I reminds me actually, when I first moved into the countryside, into the rural village here in Staffordshire, I trained as a retained firefighter, a volunteer in the village fire service, and I did all the training. And on the last day of training, they had to cut it short to go out on a shout, and it was a farm fire in a crop field. And it was a roasting hot summer's day, and they came back 3 hours later, looking like they'd walked through hell and back, and they said they actually talked about farm safety because so many of their shouts were going out to farms, and and they said it was the tiniest little drip of fuel from a fuel line in a tractor on a roasting hot day
Mhm.
just lit up the whole field, and they were literally running round the field, and the flames were chasing. And the way they described it was incredible. So they are always again preaching farm safety, farm safety, farm safety. So what are some of the practical things that some of the farmers listening to this can do to make their environment safer that maybe won't cost them the earth?
Well, the thing is, no farm can be 100% risk free.
Of
And I
course.
mean, and we acknowledge that and we tell people that. But you can go, there are little things that you can do to keep yourself safe. You can ensure that, your vehicles are maintained, your trailers are maintained, that the brakes are being looked after. When it comes to fire, making sure that you're keeping those pieces of machinery dust free. Making sure you've got a fire suppression system somewhere on the combine, somewhere near that, making sure you're not putting animals anywhere near crops, because that fire, that little one spark that can light that fire, puts
100%.
people in danger, it puts animals in danger, it puts machinery in danger, it puts crop in danger. So making sure before they actually do the job that they've thought about what could go wrong, what they can do to make it safe, and then put those measures in place. And those things may not be, they, as I said, they might not cost the earth, but they may cost your life or your limb. Using ladders, learning, refreshing how to do that. But 4 people die every year in the UK
Wow.
from ladders. And that's 4 farmers, by the way. That's not just 4 people. That's 4 farmers die every year. This year so far, we've had 6 ATV accidents, fatal accidents. That's 6 people that have
Wow.
died using a quad bike. 2 of them were 10-year-old children. Children should not be on quad bikes. You shouldn't be allowing children on quad bikes.
That is
But
shocking.
also, it is shocking, but also the people that died, were they wearing their helmet?
No, of course, no.
No. Now, these are people who probably have a helmet, but that probably don't see the use in it. So they don't have rollover protection systems on the City Stride ATVs here. It's not part of law, So doing that one thing to keep themselves safe, wearing high vis at this time of year when the nights get darker, so that people
Mhm.
can see where you are, letting people know where you are. One thing I'm telling you, I could tell you millions of one things, but one thing that all farmers should have on their phone is what 3 words.
Yep.
Because if they happen upon the scene of an accident, not
Yep.
necessarily for themselves, they can basically let the emergency services know where exactly you are to within a 3 by 3 meter square. Now, if you think about you're in rural Staffordshire, if something happened to you and you had to get, the ambulance to you quickly, and if you're on a farm, it's not a paper cut. It's probably a big accident. It could be a life, potentially a life-ending one. So the
Indeed.
air ambulance or the land ambulance gets to you, the better. So get your what 3 words on your phone.
So, for those who don't know, What Three Words is an app that's free to download, and you just literally press a button on your phone, and it'll bring down your location within a tiny amount of space, and it gives 3 words that describes that space, and anyone else can click on the link and come and find you instantly. It's wonderful,
Exactly. Even the
wonderful.
actually somebody back, if you've forgotten something back in the farmyard and you're up in one of the fields, and you can basically send them a pinpoint to where you are. I forgot my wrench. I forgot this. I forgot my lunch. I'm up in this field and I'm starving. So, you will get that person to you within a 3 by 3 meter unique 3 word address.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about that. I want to delve a bit deep, and you may or may not, because you may realise I never prime my guests with what questions I'm going to ask, because I always like to keep it fresh and live and in the moment.
Right?
One thing I really want to bring up is, be it pride, ego, or
Mhm.
arrogance, a lot of farmers will say, I don't need to wear a helmet on the quad bike. I don't need someone to foot the ladder. I've been doing this all my life. I don't need to maintain my tractor because I know it's good. So how can we help farmers to comprehend the importance of it? How can we get them to move from this place of stubborn resistance? And again, not for all, only for some, but how can we get them to move from stubborn resistance to proactive taking action on this?
I think we just need to normalize safety. And that's what we're doing with the next generation. We're bringing and we are educating a next generation of an industry that are going to prioritize safety.
Yeah.
Farmers are great at looking after their livestock, their land, their machinery. They're great at that. You know, let's try and put that a little bit more into the most important asset on the farm, which is the farmer himself or herself. And that is the most important thing. It's prioritizing and normalizing conversations in and around safety. It's making sure that the thing that they are looking after is not the prize bullock and you're getting the vet up. But when we talk about safety, we're talking about their own safety, their physical well-being, whether or not they're looking after themselves instead of in terms of putting sun cream on when they're going out, because farmers are 20 times more at risk in terms of skin cancer than anybody else. The levels of farmers with melanomas has been frighteningly increasing. Also, farmers not getting themselves checked out because they will let it's what we love about them, that they're hardworking, traditional, conservative, just get on with it. Unfortunately, they don't apply that same level of care to themselves. And that's what when we talk about safety, it's safety on the road, it's safety on the farm, it's safety with animals, it's safety in terms of your mental well-being, because if you're not in the right headspace when you're actually working with animals or getting behind the wheel of the tractor, it's not the animal that's dangerous, it's not the tractor that's dangerous, it's you and the propensity. And we've got the research to support this, that actually the farmers that have lower levels of mental well-being are more likely to take risks, less likely to think of the consequences of that risk, less likely to wear PPE and take the steps to keep themselves safe, as in things like risk assessments and ATV helmets. We have that research and we've been doing that as well over the last 10 years, so we can see how that is changing.
And as you alluded to earlier, farms don't tend to be paper cuts, do they? They'll be working machinery or working walling or fencing or handling large, very heavy beasts in a field 2 miles away from the nearest support. So it is more important that they look after themselves. But what you say, normalising the conversation, what's prevented that to date?
The fact that farmers working so hard. The UK average person works 39.5 hours a week. According to our recent research from September, I'm
Go
sure
on.
you can guess. I'm sure you
Yeah.
can guess where this is going.
Yeah.
Right? UK farmers work an average of 60 hours a week, with 44% of 41 to 16-year-olds, 60-year-olds. So 44, just about half of 41 to 60-year-olds work more than 81 hours a week. Now, this is why, because they don't have time. There are less people working on farms. They have more work to do themselves. They're working on their own. They're also just working longer hours. So unfortunately, the jobs are still there to be done and they're not taking time off. They're not taking time away from the farm because they can't. They just are not, it's not financially viable for them to bring somebody else in at this moment in time, which again adds to the anxiety and uncertainty that the industry is facing.
And I was speaking to a local insurance broker. They're not a farming or agriculture specialist insurance broker, just a general business, but he has farms on his books. And he was saying how most farmers aren't even aware that they should have professional liability insurance. And that is, I mean, to me, I could just feel the blood draining from my veins at the thought of them operating, perhaps not in an entirely safe way, without public liability and professional liability insurance. And
Yeah. And the thing is as well, in terms of life insurance, a lot of farmers, in terms of like critical illness and things like, they don't have that. And if we have accidents, we have 23,000 injuries every year in the industry, 11,000 cases of long-term ill health and 12,000 cases of serious injury that are reported under RIDDOR. So not every accident's reported under RIDDOR, but a lot of the serious ones are. Are those 23,000 people? Who's going to pay the bills if they're unable to work? And these are things that they also need to think about for themselves and invest in themselves because they are worth it, as they say.
I mean, listening to you, Stephanie, it just screams that the investment of time, energy, and if needed, money is just sensible and the right thing to be doing. I'm still going to drag this back to how can we get to the ones who are so fixed in their mind and perhaps the most likely to have a problem. How can we help them overcome the barrier to
Yeah,
becoming
I
safer?
mean, it's a cultural change. It doesn't happen overnight. We know
Right.
that. But if we're sort of looking at everything as in, there's no such thing as best practice, by the way. There's many ways to skin a cat.
Yeah.
There are lots of ways to do things. So if you're looking at good practice, if you're sort of letting people know, oh no, we don't do that anymore. We found a better, we do it this way. So it's that gentle conversation because we don't preach. We do not preach to anybody. Farmers listen to farmers.
It's
So,
true.
if you can have that peer-to-peer conversation, do you know what we found a better way to do that? It's quicker, it's easier, we only have to do it once. All of these kind of things, a fresh set of eyes on the farm. If you're going and you're visiting somebody, you don't have to call somebody out and make them feel silly for doing something wrong or dangerously. You can do it in a very gentle way
Very true. Very
that
true.
makes them feel that actually they're respected, what they're doing is respected, but you're offering suggestion. And that's what we do. We do a lot of that training, that psychological preparation for young farmers, because this is what we certainly do not want. The farmers that we have, the older farmers, have the experience, they have the legacy, they have the insights that they can share. But a young farmer can go out and in a very respectful way challenge if they feel that something is unsafe, or if they know it's unsafe but they've been asked to do it anyway. How do they say no in a very gentle, respectful way that helps them get the end goal that they want, but
Yeah.
also lets the farmer know and just remind them, because as you said, they've been doing it day in day out for 40 years and they've never had an accident. Doesn't mean it's necessarily the safest way to do it.
And the,
So
and the and the ones we need to watch are the ones it's an old Jasper Carrot joke, if you remember Jasper Carrot.
yeah.
He used to joke about his mother-in-law in the car who's never had an accident but seen thousands. And and those are the farmers we've got to watch, the ones who've never had an accident but I've seen thousands.
Oh yeah. And
Maybe they're
that's
the problem. Yeah.
And when you're standing in front of a group of 17, 18-year-olds and you say to them, okay, who knows somebody that's had an accident or blah, 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 and they nearly all put their hands up,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you're going like, let's get to the point where actually there's not so many of us. There's not so many people that have that experience, and don't understand why that would be.
Shortly before my father passed away, we were having a conversation. He was an engineer.
Mm.
Right, I died in the wall engineer, metal bashing, engineering, lathe turning, and he was saying how his generation really dismissed health and safety when it was trying to be brought in the 80s. He said, but towards the end, we realised that not only was it an essential thing for the running of a business, but it helped make the company more attractive to potential employees.
Mm.
And you and I, it sounds like we're both aware of how the young people entering the farming industry think and
Mm.
behave so differently and evaluate what's important so differently to our generation, that they're going to be looking for farms that are safe to work
Mm.
at and safe to work on. The one thing that I will pass on to the farmers watching, my father actually said that we actually proved towards the end that a safe environment to working in engineering was more efficient, more productive, and more profitable, and a nicer place to work.
And you think about it. You think about it. If you do the job once and do it right, you don't have to go back and do it again. So you keep it, and you're taking the ladder out, you're taking things out, put them back in the right place, which means that it's not going to get wet, it's not going to be lined, it's not a trip hazard. I mean, I am great fun at parties but I do have a lot of statistics, and 23,000 odd people have, a slip, trip, or a fall in the industry every year, which is about 12% of all the accidents that happen. Or sorry, 2,000 have it, which is about 12% of all the people that have it. So there are lots of ways that people can have accidents, but unfortunately you've got to be all over it, because once you start looking at animals and what people need to remember, then something else happens and there's more, say, injuries with vehicles, or there's more injuries with machinery, or there's more injuries with overhead power lines.
Hmm.
There needs to be that constant focus. So we created the little book of farm safety. Another one of the things that we do to go out there that basically is it's a little pocket-sized book, and it's got that little reminder, that if you're dealing with animals, this is what to do. If you're dealing with your crush, your race, your handling facilities, if it's about visitors to the countryside, what are your obligations under law? What can you do? How are you covering yourself? So if something were to happen, that you've done everything in your power to make that place safe, and that's what you want, because farmers are they're working so hard, but they just need to remember that they need to be able to prove that for themselves, or if the worst should happen, and if an actual accident happens that is not their fault, that if somebody comes to investigate it, that they can say, do you know what, we did think about that. We have put the training in place. We've got the signs there. People didn't read them.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And is that little tips booklet available to anyone?
Yep, of course. Everything
Where
that we
from?
do, of course, it's on yellowwellies.org, but you can contact us through the website if you want. Oh, yeah. So
Yellow Wellies. There's a story.
So the charity our logo was a pair of yellow wellies with a strap line, who would fill your boots, to get people to think about what would happen if they'd had an accident.
Yeah.
So the Farm Safety Foundation's too long to register as a website. So we've just registered yellowwellies.org because people started calling us Yellow Wellies, which was our nickname. So people know us as the Farm Safety Foundation. Most people know us as Yellow Wellies. So on our social media, we're Yellow Wellies UK. So we're both. A rose by any other name.
I feel your pain. I'm a researcher in goal setting, and for 24 years I've done 258 research interviews, but people know me as the rhino guy because of a 1-minute story I tell in my keynote.
Yeah. Maybe we'll take that one offline.
So if there's one thing, I mean, okay, so here's something for everybody listening and watching this today. What is that one thing on your land, your property, or to do with your machinery or vehicles that you've been putting off doing that you know you need to go and sort out? Prioritize it this week. Go and do it. Make it safer. Go and have a cup of tea. Put your feet up. Kick your boots off. If someone says, what are you doing with your feet on the table? Say, Dave said. All right? To say, Dave said it's all right. Consider yourself having done a good job. Do something this week and then do something next week. Do something the week after. Keep doing little things that take you towards the big task, and it won't be overwhelming for you. So that's my opinion. Stephanie, what in your opinion is the one core thing that if every farmer was to do this starting today, it's going to make them safer? What's the one thing?
The one thing I would say is think who would fill your boots if you weren't there to look after the farm, to look after your family, to look after your livestock. That's the one thing I would suggest. Always put yourself first and think who would fill your boots if you were gone.
So come on, people, make high-vis fashionable. This is what I'm hearing. Make it the go-to colour. Lime green, so good. It's so 2020s. So how can anyone watching this help Yellow Wellies? How can they help the Farm Safety Foundation?
Well, we have people at the minute going up and down the country doing tractor runs to raise money for us. And with that money, we can print more copies of the book and get them out to people, physical copies. We have the little book of Minding Your Head, which is all about mental well-being. It's got a directory of every rural support group and charity out there that can help people who are struggling. If you're concerned about yourself or anybody that you live or work with, there are people out there that can help. And I've printed 40,000 copies of that book, and it's out there, and we keep updating it because there are more things happening. So we want to keep changing it, keeping it relevant. So, and also we want to be able to keep delivering our training. If we can expand what we do, we can then start to have a look at the older farmers as well, but we can't when there's only 4 of us. We've just got limited capacity, but they can follow us on social media, on Instagram, on Facebook, on X, or even on LinkedIn. We are at Yellow Wellies UK, or you can visit our website, yellowwellies.org, to find out all about the resources and what we can do for the industry and what we're doing and how you can help.
Stephanie, I have to say, this is one of the most thought-provoking and inspiring interviews we've done for Just for Farmers. Your energy is infectious. You're obviously very passionate about what you do, and the subject is just fascinating. We could go on for hours, but sadly, time has caught up with us. So all I can say is thank you so much for your time, your honesty, and your content today. It's been so valuable.
Oh, good. I'm delighted, David, and thank you. And I'm surprised you kept me into this because I'm Irish and we can talk.
Do you know, I have a soft spot for the Irish accent. I could listen to it all day long.
But apologies to anybody listening because there are no subtitles.
Stephanie, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. And for everyone else, stay tuned for the rest of this episode on Just for Farmers. In today's Just for Farmers, in the exercise and wellbeing section, we're going to talk to James about squatting and massage guns. Two things farmers don't normally ever talk about, but think about it. You're sitting down, you're standing, you're getting up, you're getting down. Squatting is an important part of what you do. So if you do it properly, it'll be safer for you. So James is going to show us how to squat. He's also going to talk to us about the absolutely wonderful benefits of using massage guns when you finish work and before you start work. I'm living proof they really, really help. But as ever, before you go into any intense exercise regime, do consult your doctor if you haven't done any exercise for a while. Let's have a look at what he's got to say. Okay, we're here again with James, the Body Fix coach. James, what are you doing today?
Okay, so for today's exercise, what I thought we would do is have a go at some squatting. Now, the squat is a natural movement that the body should be able to do, and if it's done correctly, we can get a whole body strengthening workout.
Okay,
so I'm going to be using a dumbbell, which weighs about 12.5 kilos, but you can use anything that you can find around your farm, anything that's going to offer you a little bit of resistance. So we're going to try a couple of...
So for examples, buckets full of water or sand or a sack of seed, something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll try a couple of variations. So what I try and show my clients is how to do a goblet box squat to start with. It just helps people not worry so much about the depth and going through ranges of motion that they can't quite do. And then we'll show you the full version as well on just using the floor and the weight.
Okay.
So I've got a box here, and when I sit down onto it, you ideally want something that's going to be a little bit higher than your knees. Okay, so this is going to enable us just to load up our hips and our quads a little bit more, thighs, bum, etc. So with your weight, however you can hold it, I want you to think about holding it up a little bit in line with your chest. And I want to think about pulling my belly button in nice and tight to my spine. Okay, so that's just going to start activating the core.
And why do we do that?
To activate the core.
And why do we do that then, smart backside?
If we don't use our core and midsection so much, we can start leading towards things like back pain.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm here and I want with my feet to keep them underneath my hips as much as possible. If you're a little bit longer in the legs, you might need to take your feet a little bit wider. It's what feels comfortable on your body and your hips.
And obviously making sure that whatever they're going to sit on can take the weight
Absolutely.
of you and the weight you're holding.
Absolutely. Yeah. So all I want to think about doing here, the best way I can teach it is imagine you are sitting back onto a toilet seat. Okay, so we don't sit onto the toilet seat like this. We sit ourselves back, keeping our chest nice and tall.
Back straight, yeah.
So when I'm in this position here, I've not released anything. I've stayed nice and strong throughout my legs. So all the weight's in my bum now. I'm going to keep the weight in my heels, and I'm going to stand back up. Okay, so I'm not using my back. I'm using my hips and my thighs to stand back up, and I am driving the weight through my heels, not through my toes.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me get a close-up of the legs and feet there, lovely.
Another little tip is we can also, if you're finding yourself knees bow in, yeah, keep your knees pushed out towards your little toes.
And without sounding daft, how would someone know if their knees bow in?
You'll notice it because if you have a look down at your legs, and your knees will start doing this, like clapping together.
All right.
But they may not go all the way together. They might just like come in, push out again.
Mine do that, but I've got just fat legs.
Okay, so that's variation 1. If you want to then make it a little bit harder for yourself, get a little bit more core work involved, you can hold the weight further out.
Ooh, right.
As soon as I do this, my core will naturally engage. Okay, then I can repeat the same process again. So if you think about the cues, elevator going down, elevator coming up, I should be in pretty much a straight line then, hopefully on the film. How's that?
Excellent.
Okay, so that's variation number 1. Now if you then feel comfortable on that, you've had a go at that for a couple of sessions, couple of weeks, etc., and you're starting to feel like your body's adapting, we can take it the box away. Okay, so for this variation, all we've got to think about doing, exactly the same cues, but this time I've got a bit more depth to deal with as I go down towards the floor, so the box isn't there, but still use the same cues. Imagine you sitting back onto that box. I'm now down a little bit further.
Feet about shoulder width apart?
Yeah, feet always shoulder width apart unless it feels too unnatural for you. Again, it depends on hip sockets, etc. So we can always go a little bit wider. You could also start it without the weight, get used to the movements.
Good call.
Coming up through there, yeah?
Yeah.
And then you can add your weight in gradually as you go along.
Lovely. Smashing. Thank you very much indeed. And what are the advantages to a farmer of doing those exercises? What will give them?
Yeah, so again, the squat, it's a natural movement within the body, so if we can add some resistance into that movement, you are going to strengthen up bones, joints, muscles.
Excellent. Thank you very much, James.
This video, I thought I would go over massage guns. If there was one thing I would say to buy over anything you've learned so far, it is one of these guns.
Now, people listening go, oh, we've got to buy something. How much is it, ballpark?
Now, massage guns, if you go on Amazon, you can pick these up, I'm sure, for at least little as £20.
Wow, okay.
On the other end of the scale, we're talking top range £700. They all pretty much do the same thing, and for day-to-day use, the cheapest one's probably going to be your best bet.
So £20 to £40, quite a decent investment in yourself.
Yeah, and they're going to last a long time.
Okay.
What do they do, you may be asking? So these are percussion devices, and all that means is, I'll give you a quick demonstration. So for those who are listening, the end is just going in and out. So this is going to offer vibrational release to your muscles, and if you're a busy farmer and you haven't got much time during the day, even when you're riding your tractors, etc., you can have a bit of a massage gun, no problem, all over your body. Anything that hurts, get the massage gun on there for 30 seconds up to a minute.
Not whilst you're driving a tractor.
Not while you're driving a tractor, but yeah, when you're between your rest periods, etc., use a massage gun on a muscle, right? So vibrational release, they come with various ends and attachments. For this little video, I'm just going to use a flathead. Okay.
Okay. So for those listening, it looks like a little drill. A drill with a sort of is it a chrome or a stainless steel metal disc sticking on the end?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay.
So they come in various speeds as well. So you can crank it right up to the top, or as little as you like. They make a nice noise. So you can use this pretty much anywhere on the body that you've got access to. I'd not put it on your face though. Okay, just.
This is going to hurt, isn't it? I would imagine.
It is, and it's not going to hurt, but it is a nice release once you've been using it for a little bit of a while. Okay, so what you can literally do, find the muscle on your body that hurts. So for instance here, if I say I've got a bit of shoulder pain and bicep pain, upper arm pain, yeah, I could literally go from just above my elbow and work up the bicep into my shoulder, and we can keep working that for about 30 seconds. What that's going to do is start to relieve off a lot of tension throughout your muscles. It's going to start to relieve fascia tissue, which is the connective glue of our muscles and our body, and we can just work that 30 seconds up to a minute. You can start working down the back of your arms, down your forearms, anywhere you like on your body.
So you're keeping it on the body,
on the muscle. We never go across joints.
and you're moving it constantly.
Any bones that are exposed, like your elbow or your wrist bones or your spine, avoid going over those because it might hurt a little bit. But just looking for the soft tissue areas just to get some relief.
And I can't help noticing you're doing it through a t-shirt and a thick hoodie.
Oh yeah,
so that's fine as well.
Yeah, they're absolutely fine. I wouldn't go across. You can go across skin if you like, but.
So hundreds of farmers are now relieved that they don't have to get naked in the tractor
Absolutely,
or the barn.
unless they want to.
Yeah. Okay. I'm hearing you. Thank you very much indeed. Hi, welcome to another drill down. I'm still with the legend that is Paul Harris, and today are going to talk about collaboration. Is it all that? So Paul, collaboration, it's widely regarded as something that's very, very positive. It fosters innovation, invention, it fosters growth, shared thinking. Mm-hmm. Anything else we should know about collaboration?
Well, I think in the industry, in agriculture, we collaborate a lot actually, whether that's a buying group where we're going to buy fertilizer or feed, or maybe at a lower price, we can collaborate like in that way. We spend a lot of time actually talking to each other as well in discussion groups,
right.
and actually it's quite unusual actually now in the agricultural industry. Where other industries is often seen as competition. If I tell you how I'm doing in my business, that's going to give you an advantage. What's great about agriculture is we often do collaborate and we talk to each other about maybe what our cost of production is and how can somebody else learn from that, and we're quite willing to share. So I think it can be a really positive thing, that collaboration.
I sense a but coming.
There is a but, yes. But I think...
Or an alternative way of looking at it. Yeah. What's the alternative way of looking at it?
I think like everything in life, isn't it? There's always it's two sides to a coin. So
yeah.
Whilst there are some really great things about collaboration, Dave, I think the danger or the risk maybe sometimes is we can then become insular. We can start to only talk to what's the word when you talk just to the people?
Yes.
An echo chamber?
Yeah, an echo chamber, yes.
And the risk, therefore, when you talked about innovation, is if we're thinking outside the box, say, who could we collaborate with that maybe isn't in the industry? That could be for some help, it could be just for some consultancy. Maybe how do I grow my business and talk to somebody who's not necessarily in agriculture? Or what can I do with my farming business that requires me to collaborate with people outside of agriculture? I mean, you used to work in hotels, didn't you?
Yep.
You know, how many of us talk to the local hotels in our area about providing our goods? It could be milk, it could be wheat for bread making, it could be meat to go on somebody's plate. You know, sometimes I think there's a danger if we're not careful that we only think collaboration is within our existing marketplace rather than people outside.
So there's a couple of examples that's popping into my head here about how we could potentially get farmers to go to industries they've never even considered could help them. So forgive me if you're listening to this and going, he doesn't know what he's on about. I accept I don't know what I'm on about, but a thought comes into my mind that you are very, very good at land management. You're very good at knowing what goes where, and this is better here, and then we do that and we can fit that in there. There are organisations out there who have gone from a small unit to a big unit, manufacturers. I know a manufacturing company who manufacture roofing up on the near Ellesmere Port, and they've just gone from these two tiny little units into one really big one. And they got people from outside of their industry to consult on how to lay it out. Farmers could do that, or farmers could ask for help from an organisation totally different to your own, who have done something similar to what you want to do. Go and collaborate. And if you're thinking they won't do that or they'll charge the earth, well, actually, because farming is such a sort of a primary, almost an emergency industry now, companies have got something called social value, corporate social responsibility. Maybe they will donate a couple of hours a month for one of their senior people to come and consult for you.
I can give you an even more practical example even than that, David, just come to my mind as well, which is a lot of the housing developers and property developers have to now be aware of their carbon footprint. So they have to think about this net carbon, net zero aspect. One of the ways that developers, housing developers, can do that is to purchase land off a local farmer and create a herbal ley or make it into a herbal meadow. And that actually then offsets the carbon of the houses they're producing. So who could we collaborate with in that sense, where we can be helping their businesses, also ticking some boxes for us in terms of hitting our environmental challenges and requirements by talking to somebody who's going to build a house or a factory. That's a real out-of-the-box sort of collaboration, which I know is happening right now, but that's one way of an exact example of what you're talking about, outside the industry.
It's a bit of a stressful day. I just had visions of lying down in a herbal meadow.
Yes.
Now,
Beautiful.
there is a caveat I would put on this, though, is that if you're going to look at a collaboration from outside your industry, make sure the source, A, is credible, but B, they have a proven track record at the highest level. You deserve the best information from the best source. So if you're going to take even the slightest risk doing something like this, make sure A, that source is credible, B, they've got a proven track record of having done what it is you want them to do at the very highest level.
Particularly if it's consultancy, I think you're absolutely right. There are the world is full of wacky ideas and wacky people sometimes, and people I think look at farming with sort of envious eyes at times and would like a little slice of that. And so I think Dave's right to proceed with caution, collaborative caution, collaborate, whatever that alliteration is.
Yeah.
Cautious collaboration. There you go.
Tread with care. Yeah.
But actually, I think that one of the key messages here is collaboration doesn't just have to be within our own industry. It can be with partners from outside of our industry that we can collaborate with.
And on that note, we would love to hear, what is it you're going to do? Because if you're listening to these podcasts or watching them, if you've got the luxury of the time to do that, you've taken a lot of information from our experts and ourselves over the last year and a half, 2 years. We're interested in knowing, what is it you're going to do? Let us know what it is you've done as a result of these podcasts. And you know what? If you collaborate, share the good news. See you soon on another drill down.
Cheerio.